Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. We are here with Dailey Little. Dailey is my Reiki teacher and an amazing healer, intuitive, and I'm so excited to have you with me today. I'd just like to have you kind of briefly introduce yourself, just a little bit about who you are and where you're located.
Awesome. Hi, Grace. Um,
Hi.
so my name is Dailey Little, and I am a priestess of the goddess Isis. I'm also a Reiki master teacher and an energy healer, and I've been doing that work for about 15 years through a business called Healing Heart Reiki, which is my business. Um, I have been intuitive my entire life. I've just had a lot of really bizarre experiences in childhood that led me on a big journey to understand spirituality, understand metaphysics, understand why do we sometimes just know things or have dreams that come true. Um, and I wasn't finding the answers that I was seeking through religion. So I started to really explore other terrain. And that is literally how I ended up running Healing Heart Reiki. Just there's so many wild stories that led there. And today that's my life. And so I love meeting people. I love teaching about energy. And yeah, I really just love the personal journey of growth and healing and development and manifesting and magic and fun. So
Yeah. And where are you located?
I'm in Sonoma County wine country, so you can find me in Santa Rosa and an office in Petaluma as well. So,
Yeah. Yeah, and Daily teaches online classes too for those who are not local, because I also live in Sonoma County, which a lot of you know. But yeah, we're here today. I kind of was inspired to have you come and we could talk a little bit about ISIS, but there's so much we could talk about every time we connect with Daily. We'll definitely talk on some random tangents. So
yeah.
I did have some intentions and some questions I wanted to ask you, but I always believe that spirit shows us what we need to say. So if something else comes up, we're welcome to share it. And I just invite in all that energy to support us. I have a Isis altar that I started and created
I want to
over
see
there. I'll show you after because I can't
it.
move the
Okay.
camera with my setup right now. But I'll show you. I'll put a pic. Well, no, I won't put a picture unless she says no. But I'll show you daily. But I took a class with you earlier this year, and part of that was encouraging us to start an altar and start like these practices to connect with her after the class ended. And so part of my intention connecting with her is starting this altar. But I've also been dancing with her, and I feel like that has been a really beautiful practice. And that's something we did in class was connecting with the goddess and dancing. So there's so many different ways to connect. But before we get into all that, I just want to ask a fun kind of opening questions for people who don't know you.
Sure.
And I just feel like it's always interesting to me to see how people experience their life and the things that they find interesting. So we'll talk a little bit about your experience living as a healer. So we'll get into a lot of fun stuff. But before we start, if you were to describe yourself as a color, what color would you be? I
Ooh.
just wonder if you picked the same color as what I think you are.
I feel like that changes every day. Like earlier this summer, I would have said that I felt yellow. I felt like a rich, um, gold, not even golden poppy, that's too orange. Like I felt like a deep, vibrant yellow that you could just swim in for years and years and years. But actually, today I feel like magenta pink. I feel like
Mm.
vibrant. I guess I would be a vibrant color. I feel like magenta pink and like those iridescent, um, like the light hits it a certain way, a piece of glass maybe, and then it's not pink anymore, it's blue. And then it
Mm.
turns this way and you see all of the gemstone bubblegum colors kind of refracting. That's the color I would be.
I like that. Yeah,
Aqua aura
I
crystal.
can never know how to pronounce it. Inference, I think is what it's called. In
Oh.
in inference where the color spectrum changes. I
Yes.
remember learning about that in art school, but I could be completely wrong on what it's called.
I don't know either. I don't know what that makes me. Maybe it makes me a shapeshifter.
Yeah, well,
But I
I feel
love
that energy from you. I feel like you can embody a lot of different things.
yeah.
And that's something that I am inspired by, but also find challenging sometimes because I have so many things that excite me and so many different things that I can embody. It's like knowing what path to choose. So it's like very, I think you are a great example of not holding on to one energy. You can tap into all these different streams and different aspects of yourself. So I feel like that's like, well, that's like Isis, but it's,
Yeah.
that being able to connect with not only one part of yourself and holding that. So makes sense you would pick that color.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's like the crux of things, though, right? Like, I feel like as humans, we have this incredible ability to create. We're creators at our core. And maybe we've had a lot of generations of living where the majority of us feel like we're born into this life and we just have to do the one thing, like maybe 2 generations ago, our parents were just doing one thing all day and that was it. That's all they could do. Whatever their job was or their title, even the hats they wore as parents, there was just this expectation. And I feel like we are in this incredible era right now where we're giving ourselves collectively permission as a global, human presence to actually recognize that we're creators and the paths that we choose are important. We're defining ourselves in that, we're co-creating with the universe, but we really do have choice and we don't have to just live one way blindly because we've been told to do so. I think that form of living is over. And even though I know we're really privileged in the West, like, or the West, whatever that means, but, even though we're really privileged here in the United States, um, with a lot of wealth and opportunity, and there are a lot of other places in the world where the same level of wealth is not abundant in that way. I think this is a global shift in consciousness that affects everyone.
Yeah, I'm excited about
Yeah, we're waking up to our
it.
God self, it's like deep.
Yes, yeah. Well, and I think people have a lot of fear of allowing themselves to change.
Hmm.
So
God, yes.
it's scary to start, but I'm excited that I chose to do that in this lifetime.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm happy that you did, and I am, and that we know each other. It's wonderful.
Yeah. I met Dailey um I think 2017 is when I met you, and I did my Reiki training with you and
Yeah.
then some other classes. And then this fall we did the Isis mystery. So how long have you been teaching more of that Egyptian mysteries?
I actually feel like that didn't
Well,
s-
other than lifetimes, but
yeah, like, well, Healing Heart Reiki started in 2007, 2008. And but I was actually still working with, I mean, I've been working with Isis since I was 12 or 13, right? And so maybe some of the teaching has just come out of that, but like even when I had an online web store where I was selling products, like magical products online, I would often teach to people that way. Like people could order crystals and channeled information. And then I would get on phone calls with people and we would just have these amazing conversations. And I would teach them about the stories of Isis and ancient Egypt and like the power and relevance to what they were going through. So I don't know, maybe that's 20 years?
a minute now.
Yeah, a minute. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And I feel like for me, I have felt very connected to her energy. I don't know, probably since I was little, because we just like the iconography, the artwork, the imagery is always interesting to me. It was never like a conscious effort to learn about it.
Yeah.
But I do remember we did a Reiki share. So Daily does a Reiki share. That's where people meet and they practice Reiki together. And you had us connect with, I don't remember what you called it, but we connected with her and we did a kind of like a blessing
Mhm.
with her. And I feel like after that, I was just like, okay, time to learn about these things.
Yeah, like a door was opened.
Yeah, a door was open. So it was really interesting to start learning more about my own personal connection to that and what is interesting to me about it because there's you could learn about it in so many different ways. You could
Yeah,
study it in more of a historical way, but
right.
I feel like what we did in the class was more embodying that energy and beginning
Yeah.
it's very this opening doorway of connection with her. Um, so it's been quite interesting.
Yeah, and for people who don't know, Isis is sometimes called the goddess of 10,000 names because she is an ancient goddess and so multifaceted in her stories and what she does and how she shows up in the world that that she's been given that 10,000 name epithet to express. Like she's literally got so many different titles and she's shown up in different cultures even. But she's a winged goddess. Some say she started human and living on earth, mastering earth magic. She just found herself looking up into the sky and thinking like, wait a minute, I want to be like that sun god Ra. I want to have that level of power. And it was her craving honestly for power and for that glory and that led her to becoming a goddess, right? And to me that's really meaningful because I think sometimes we think that our human desires are bad and we're raised in a culture that oft I think in the United States with the underlying like puritanical history, the Puritans and the Mayflower and all of that, there can kind of be this idea that the things that we desire are actually really dangerous. But part of Isis's story and even other stories in other traditions around the world really show us that your desires can lead to enlightenment. And even though her desire was maybe for power or glory, um, to have this like above and beyond experience that as a human, like she technically shouldn't have, ultimately her stories reveal that that was truly the path for her and she like learned so much and she grew and her heart of compassion grew and she was actually able to transform the world that she was living in and the people all up leveled as a result of that desire when she did ultimately become a goddess, right? So she's a really interesting goddess because she starts as human and she really lays the template for us of what it means to step into our godhood and to recognize that we have incredible power and not to abuse it, not to hide from it and shrink from it, but to truly expand and live the life that we feel meant to live.
Yeah, it gives me chills.
It's super
But I feel, yeah, and I feel like that was a meaningful aspect of what I'm drawn to her energy, like
Mhm.
why I'm drawn to her energy and like what I feel like it was, opening and helping me. It's just like connecting more with my body and my humanhood and like, I'm sure you can relate like when we go into Reiki and more channeling and all these
Yeah,
activating things. It's more in that crown that you're like going up into the ethers and it's very exciting. But I feel like and we were literally talking about this with your cat right before this, but it's that importance of grounding into your body. And I feel like she is beginning and learning about her is beginning to show me like, okay, I can be in physical, I'm in my body, I'm human, but I can also embody those intuitive gifts, those clairvoyance, all those things, but also not leave my body.
right.
And like being okay with connecting to those physical aspects of the body, sexuality, sensuality, like
Right.
just the story of like it's for everyone, but being a woman,
Yeah.
and it's very interesting to me. So I feel like she helped me see, okay, it's safe to do that because
Yeah.
it can be very, yeah, even if I don't have these beliefs that, oh, I have to be this pure little thing, it still seeps into your subconscious,
Yeah.
especially in America,
Yes.
but
Yeah.
throughout the whole world, we have this whole mindset, I think, when it comes to spiritual connection. And that's why I even wanted to change the name of the podcast, like just embracing that, embracing my multidimensional self. So
Awesome.
I see Isis as helping me do that. So thank you for helping me with that too.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, thank you. I think as a priestess of Isis, like I was thinking about this yesterday actually, which is, or maybe even this morning, that I've met, for example, priestesses of the Orisha Oshun, who's a goddess of love. And I remember the first several priestesses of Oshun that I met, just on the surface, I thought, they're so intense, they're so harsh, you know? But then at their core, they just embodied so much magic of love and like all of this. And and then I met other priestesses of Isis, and I was like, oh, they're a certain way, you know? And they seem more like Hathorian or like love oriented than what I would think of Isis, because Isis often she's a goddess that teaches sovereignty. She teaches us how to like own our energy and be in our bodies and be a queen. She is a queen goddess, and literally the hieroglyph that represents her is the throne, and her crown in some images in ancient Egyptian art, her crown is a throne on her head, right? So literally, she is the seat, Aset. And she helps make kings and queens and pharaohs. And so she teaches people how to step into that power for themselves and how to like own themselves. So considering that, I was thinking about this the other day and I thought, like, probably the reason that I'm a priestess of Isis isn't because I already have that skill down. It's because in this life, I've needed so much support in getting over childhood trauma or life experiences to find that trust in myself and to be able to sit my throne. That the goddess was like, oh, I'll take her. She's mine. We have so much work to do. We'll just put her under the wing here and handle her. And I really I laugh at the thought of that, but it just feels really powerful
Well, it
that
makes me feel like I'm gonna cry
yeah, I
because
think
I'm
that
happy
it's a
that,
powerful thing.
yeah. Yeah, and I think like any aspect of spiritual connection, I think can help you bring you back to yourself. But
Yeah.
I feel like for some reason her energy, that imprint, like is very, I feel like very like physically, tangibly, like um
It's a
in
frequency.
my body. And I'm like,
Yeah.
whoa, it feels a lot different than other energies I've experienced. And I don't know if that's just because I am sensitive to it or I or her energy is just very big.
I mean, I really feel from a metaphysical standpoint that it's because it's a frequency. Like we when we talk about angels, angelic energy can be really huge too, like really
Yeah.
beautiful. But gods specifically, I think that they have a like an energy frequency that's also a little more tangible and embodied on the earth plane because of how human belief has fed
Yeah.
like the meme or the energy of their existence. So this is why even people who don't believe in like God, the big G, the Christian God or whatever, can go into an incredible church and they're just swept away by the energy. It's real. So in ancient Egypt, gods were not called gods. They were called Neter or Netru, which is like actually maybe better defined as like a force of nature, force, right? So they're like, Isis is a Neter. She's a pure energy, and I do believe that there's consciousness attached to that energy. Like she's a conscious being. And that's something I've arrived to after like decades of working with her. When I started, I was like, I don't know if I believe all of this, but something's happening. And I think over time, the simplest explanation has really been the best for me, which is that the gods are real, you know? But they're also a frequency like a radio channel, right? So when we are touched by initiates of that energy, or if we have a direct experience with that frequency, it kind of resonates into the part of us that is already that channel because we're full spectrum. And I think once we've been touched that way, especially if we like that vibration, it's easy to keep that resonating and open, and we learn and heal from that, and that's, I think many gods are like that, you can kind of create these relationships with beings of the unseen world. And there's like safer ways to do that and not so great ways to do that, but we've got to let go of the idea that humans are the only thing on the planet, or the idea that in order for it to be real, you have to be able to touch it and taste it and measure it, because that science is actually not very old. It's only about 150 years old that we've been thinking that way,
Yeah.
part of the new era. And like the idea that it has to be quantifiable to be real, and somehow we've let that get in the way of um, spiritual trust and love. Like, we can believe whatever we want to believe, like nobody's telling you what to believe, but I think it's very narrow if we forget that there are actually a lot of things that we can't see with our eyes or hear with our ears even, that are real.
Yeah. I always just give the example like to people, like compare it like it's the internet. Like we're talking,
Yeah.
but we're not together. Or
Right.
like you guys are listening to this, but we're not together.
Yeah.
I feel like it's, you know, there are so many examples in science and the real world of intangible things. So I think it's just like a framing it differently. But I think sometimes that scares people. Like, and when I was little, that would freak me out. Like, oh, there's spirit, there's things watching me. Like, there's
Yeah.
energies. Like, so I think that can be intimidating to be like, okay, I'm not alone.
Yeah.
But I think it's just a mindset change. Like now I see that I was like, oh, that's Paul. Like I have oh my team, my spirits, like my family, they're with me.
Right.
But but I don't think everyone's ready to see it that way.
Yeah, I mean, we have cell phone, like we have Wi-Fi waves and cellular data waves, and we can't see those in the air. Like, you really can't. I don't see it. But we see the outcome with the right
Yeah.
instrument, right? The right instrument is a cell phone or a computer, which we have manufactured. And only because someone understood the science for how to do that. Before that, we didn't know how to see it, right? And we didn't know that we were even transmitting it sometimes. And so I think, like, with intuitive wisdom and with our inner knowing and with other beings there that are in these frequencies that our science hasn't yet quantified, we have to keep that in mind. Like, just as eventually cell phones were made, eventually there will be something made that will allow the vision of these things to be easier. And we're already seeing that, but there's still doubt around it. And I think in the meantime, the greatest instrument that we have is actually our body. Our body, just like the cell phone will tell you, like it will channel what's coming through our body. Our bodies are an incredible channel for what we sense around us that is unseen. We have incredible dreams and a whole thing happening that is unseen here that we translate and speak. And that's our magic as people. It's part of our magic. So I think times are changing, and people are starting to realize that what was once seen, because of history and because of fear, like what was once seen as like charlatans' work, as negative somehow, as fake or dangerous to spiritual well-being, um, which really was just like intuitive, our own intuitive power. I think we're starting to recognize how critical that is and how we're already using it. People that don't consider themselves to be magical or spiritual at all are already using intuition all the time. They get the sense that, oh, my husband's needing me right now, and they call out of the blue and it's the perfect time. Like, we're constantly using these facilities of our body instrument, and I think finally we're coming into an era where that will start to be more accepted instead of people being burned at the stake and killed for that.
Yeah, happy to be here this time.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you see that drastic change in people's perspective from like when you first started sharing about Reiki to now?
Yes
Like
and
more acceptance or understanding, you know?
I think for me, like, and maybe this is just because this was the path that I needed, so this is what I received. Um, there really never was like a lot of deep resistance when I started sharing about Reiki. I think part of that is maybe I was like when I first was guided to start a Reiki practice, I had taken Reiki with my mom, and it was more of a bonding experience than anything. I was never trying to like go professional or anything, right? And in fact, I had doubts about Reiki. I was kind of like, how is this newer modality that was really only developed 100, 120 years ago, as far as I knew, how is that gonna like overmatch any of the ancient metaphysical trainings and things that I've learned already up to that point, right? So I didn't really have even like faith that Reiki was something the world needed, you know? But I was walking my son to sleep one night. He was brand new, he was a little baby. And I had this guided message, and it was just so overpoweringly strong in my spirit. And the message was for me to start healing heart Reiki and like start this.
Well, you do the voice. I feel like like I feel like when you tell these stories, you always do like the embodied voice, and I
It
love
was
it.
dramatic. It was like, you must start healing heart Reiki. Like, you will start a business healing heart Reiki. And I was like, no, that's a bad idea. Because, like, instantly I went to like what I would call like a witch's wound, right? Like, I'm going to be burned at the stake if people see me as an energy healer. They're going to kill me. Like, I just had a lot of body fear. And I also had a lot of judgment about energy healers and how they show up in the world. So I was like, no, I'm not going to start a business called Healing Heart Reiki. And this voice was like, yes, you will. And I was like, well, there's no place for me to do it. And they were like, there is a place. Go on Craigslist. And like when you're just having conversations like this, but it's like maybe it was my higher wisdom, but I really feel like it was my guides, it was like an outer voice sharing things with me I'd never really done or knew. And within 2 weeks, I had a beautiful office that I shared with office mates and space to grow. And I just kept listening to that voice to establish a flow for my practice. But like even starting Healing Heart Reiki, I did it because I was called, not because I really had faith that that's what was needed. And over time, I realized that it was really about my own healing, my own heart healing, and my own energetic healing and opening growth, right? They were like, well, we got to help this girl. Let's just have her start a business helping other people. And then she'll have to do her personal work to get, to survive. And so it's just been this incredible journey. But, I look at when I first was reaching out to people, I would just kind of tell them in the most conservative, like muggle way, like, oh, Reiki is a word, a Japanese word that means universal life force energy. And it's often seen as a laying on of hands, where I, as the practitioner, lay hands on someone, a human person. And through that simple touch, there's a flow of magnetic force. It's just the same force as the trees. It's not magic, it's just energy. It's a universal energy, like Tai Chi, Qigong, same Chi. And science has shown consistently that the application of Reiki or hands on healing or touch has been proven to reduce stress in, you know, in experiments like stress. So it's used in oncology wards, it's used in neonatal units, in hospitals, in some hospitals around the country. And you don't have to believe in it for it to work. It just is another way of flowing energy. So I think like the fact that I felt that I could say that without flinching, you know, and believe that and express it in this very practical way. I think that helped, that helped because then I just got people that were ready to hear it the practical way,
Yeah.
and I do think over 15 years of running the business, there's a lot more that is just happening when people receive Reiki flow and when we're in, working in the world of metaphysics, of energy that we can't quite see on the regular plane. There's just a lot happening, you know? So people get scared of that. They're afraid of what they don't understand, and there will always be those. But I think by choosing to serve people who are ready for Reiki and ready for this experience, that's created kind of its own protective buffer. So
Yeah.
maybe people are a little bit wiser to things after like Charmed, Harry Potter, The Craft, all these like magical witchy shows, Hocus Pocus 2. Like I think
Yeah, the
there's
craft got me. They got me in. But yeah, I see that, like, I think there's just different people that individuals can help. Like, and I'm sure you see that with all of the students you've taught. Like, you might have certain clients that come to you versus someone else because of maybe the way you present it, but also I think the energy, like, people might be just drawn to a certain individual because I see it as like there's a match, like there's a
yeah,
reason. But I think it's also people can understand that just on a, oh, I go and look at all the different hairstylists. I picked this one.
yeah,
Like it's the same kind of thing.
yeah,
But I think there's like an undercurrent that's actually happening where it's like, I feel like the reason I connected with you is the specific thing. Like you're the person that I was supposed to learn Reiki from. There's a million different teachers.
yeah.
So I think just like trusting those kind of things when it comes to if people are looking for a healer or someone to work with, like, look for referrals, maybe look at their reviews, like, check them out if they have a podcast or YouTube or all these things. But I think there's also just a layer to it where it's trust, like, okay, there's something that lights up for me about doing this class or doing this next step for yourself.
Yeah, I think that lighting up is really critical. I see it kind of like music. Like there's a whole bunch of different radio state. Well, we don't even really use radios anymore, right? Like now it's like Spotify. But there's so many different channels that you can kind of tune into for music, and a lot of music is just healing. So, um, at some points in your life, you may want a certain vibration, and at other days you want a different one. I think it's the same with energy healers and the people that we choose to help support us, or that we seek guidance on for our journey. It's like um, there's space for all of us to be doing this energy healing work because the average person probably needs to feel and experience shifts in energy in a multitude of different ways, and no one person can provide, right? So I think listening to that inner knowing is huge because it's part of our human guidance system, and it will lead us to really great connections. And then of course there's practical things like, like I like to say, if you're looking for an energy healer and you have really complex things you're trying to sort through versus kind of just wanting a light influx of energy, because there's that too. I think it's better to find someone who has more experience. So either someone who's doing it full time or um, who just has like a long term commitment, right? And I think sadly in this era, there are also a lot of, um, I don't want to say like false gurus, but like there are a lot of I think there are a lot of teachers that are really deep in their work. We're all always growing, we're all fallible, we're all learning. And a lot of teachers and healers can hit really shadowy places because we're pushing the edge by doing the energy work as much as we do. So
Yeah.
our shit's going to come up. Our poop is going to come up, and we've got to sort that, and like be present with it. And that can mean that even the best energy healers, we just go through dips where we're sorting things and we're not at our best. So I think because of that, it's even more important that as somebody seeking healing, you trust your inner guidance system, and you also understand the guidelines and looking for someone. And you look for someone who is constantly encouraging you in your own empowerment,
Yeah.
right? In your own empowerment, not telling you that they know everything and you have to listen to them or else you're going to be in trouble, or you have to listen to the angels or else you're going to, like, everything's going to be bad, because that creates a fear paradigm where you will ultimately find yourself doing things not because it feels true in your body, but because you're afraid of the consequence of what happens if you don't.
Yeah. And I mean, that's just the same cycle that a lot of people walked away from. So
Right.
we don't need to be scared of spirits or
Right.
God.
No.
But
But that cycle can be so easily perpetuated, right?
yes,
And so
yeah.
I don't think it's as simple as saying there's good healers and bad healers. I think it's simply that we all go through spaces, and so because healers are always changing and growing and in flux and in different states of development, just like other people, it's, I think, part of the teaching for, and I try to teach this to my students, like that I have, like, um, that we've got to actually re-embrace a culture of understanding that um, our own inner wisdom is the most important wisdom in our life on a human level, right? And like with that, we're co-creating with God or the universe, however you want to frame that. But like, there's no other human that's actually going to um, be more important than that wisdom. And the traditional concept of the guru or the teacher, the teacher chakra is like a sub chakra between the crown and the third eye. And that chakra is just meant to light up so that, like, teachers, true spiritual teachers, are there to like help people actually get here, get the light flowing here. This lights up so people learn how to activate this, their inner knowing and their inner wisdom, and bring that in so that they can really connect to the all,
Yeah,
you know?
bloom the lotus.
Yeah, the blooming lotus.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. And I think what is powerful about working with like you and other teachers that I've gotten to work with, because I've been really lucky, I've found a lot of really good teachers. And I think, unfortunately, some people that have worked with me have told me they did not experience that. So I think it's just the idea that you're going to keep growing, keep learning, and like that when we do something like Reiki master, it's not like, okay, we're the master of everything. It's like we're dedicating ourselves to mastering ourselves. So it's continuous growth. And like working with you, I see like you always are doing new things and working on yourself, and like that I think is really one, like essential if someone's going to be full-time doing work with others, but it's also inspiring to me to see, okay, like there are, it's never just one thing. It can be a continual evolution. And
Right,
like Reiki can be the baseline of that for me, but that might not be everyone's story, like,
right.
whatever it is for you. But I think knowing that you can keep going and
Mhm.
then and come back to those foundations again and again, like that there's something to keep you excited about like working with others, because otherwise it's the same as any job that someone might resent, like they don't want to be seeing client, they're like, I'm tired, I don't want to do this. Then maybe that is time where you take a break and like reevaluate,
Mhm.
like
Yeah.
because you don't have to, you could do it differently and like finding a way that inspires you, because I think that is where, yeah, we can get into that unethical area where you're draining yourself to help others, and that's not helping anyone.
Yeah. That might be feeding childhood wounds. And because I think, like, that's all, if you just think about the chakras, right? Like crown and third eye, a lot of energy healing work that happens today in the United States and kind of the Western paradigm, outside of long grounded cultural traditions, of which there are many around the world, I think when you have a tradition of healing that still has its roots intact, there are actually a lot of safe balances to help keep things stable, and to keep you in a really good way. And part of the beauty of being in the kind of new age of the last 150 years, when spirituality was taken outside of religion, and now people are just talking about it and exploring without it having to go through the church, for example, or go through these older traditional channels like family lineage, where it's being passed down from a grandmother to, to one person who's going to learn with her, like it. And outside of those paradigms, now we have this access to wonderful information. But I think the other side of that, the shadow side of that chakra, is like, if all of that wisdom is here in Anjana chakra, the shadow is illusion, right? So we can easily get overwhelmed by all of the information and all of the ways to practice and all of the possibilities. And a lot of modalities, when they teach energy healing, actually just focus on the upper chakras, how to open the third eye, how to open like the crown for knowledge. But like actually the crown opening is about love, it's about oneness. And the shadows of these chakras, of course, are ego, right? Like thinking of our universe of one, but not the oneness of all connected, and being overwhelmed by possibilities and succumbing to like fear in the visions that we see and the illusions that we see. And when we go that way, like um, it doesn't feel good, and then we get into tricky loops, right? Everything gets kind of funky and off. But a lot of that can be rectified if we just ground our energy. If we remember that the system works as a whole, that like all of this energy we raise in doing modern day energy work up here, it's meant to be balanced by energy from the heart down, right? Because the heart is the great transformer. And like our guts and solar plexus, our nerve center, like all of this is how we like process and digest all of these experiences and let go of the things that don't serve us and root into our being. And the lower half of the body is actually where, like the hara line in Japanese metaphysics, that's where your life purpose stuff is. So I think like a lot of the newer modalities that emphasize, like I love EFT tapping, for example, I love it, but it's all upper chakra. Now it's moving the energy, but it's even better if you remember that EFT can also include tapping in the ankles,
Your feet.
positions on the legs and the feet, right? Because we want the energy to flow all the way down and to ground. And when that doesn't happen, then we end up with a lot of illusion and confusion and fear. And then we want to trust other people to resolve things for us because we're in the shadow of our own wisdom. And then we get taken advantage of, or we feel victimized, you know? And that's just like not a thing. And so I think it's like not helpful, right? So we learn from it, but I think as people that are curious seekers of metaphysics and knowledge, one of the best things we can do for ourselves is learn to trust ourselves. And wherever we have like deep wounds around that from being told that we shouldn't trust ourselves or shouldn't trust our womb or our sex or our root or whatever it is, like the more that we can come back into our body around those traumas and release that, the more we'll be able to hold all of the curiosity that's opening up here, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's so important. And for me personally, it's been really helpful to connect to Reiki and things like that because I feel like it helped me heal some physical aspects of my body, like pain. And it's not like I never have pain, but like manage those things and like heal so much that I was able to finally, okay, be somewhat grounded. I think it took me like maybe 28 years to even know what that like felt like.
Oh
So I
yeah.
think most
I didn't learn until
people
my 30s and
are,
40s. Yeah.
yeah, floating around a lot. So I think, and especially if you're kind of going into this spiritual awakening, like people are, you're opening all these pathways. I think it's very essential to have some kind of physical movement or embodiment or something.
Yeah.
And I remember when I first started working with you, you would one thing that came up, we did Reiki and then you like gave me some messages, and one of the things that they were suggesting, my guides, was like very gentle touch, just like on your legs, going up my hips, like all the way around my body, but not massaging, not anything deep, but just like the gentlest touch. And I think that was a very helpful opening, because I think it can be really intimidating to connect with your body if you feel
Yeah.
disconnected.
Yeah.
So, one, thank you for bringing me that message, but I think that could be helpful for people. Like, you don't have to go into an extreme thing that is uncomfortable,
Yeah.
but like something that can open that doorway, like
Yeah.
even if it's stretching or something like that.
Well, I think there's also magic too, just in like you at the time of that message were ready to receive that, you know? And I think like at least for myself, I can think of many times in the past where I've closed the door to truly being open to receiving spirit messages, right? Like I've just felt so in my judgment about things or so in my ego about things that even though there was a tiny voice inside saying this is a good thing, it's okay, I felt like because of my personality or who I was at the time or what I felt I stood for, I couldn't allow that potential to be there. And it felt a lot easier to shut that down. So I think there's something too about like truly being open to beginning that relationship with your body, right?
Yeah.
And um, that like we can have all of the teachings and the gifts as practitioners in the world, but uh, if the person's not truly open, then there's not much to do. So I feel like for me, when I'm in that space, one thing I've recognized is I get what I call growly, growly. And like that's my own made up word for sometimes when I'm like taking a class or if I'm just headed towards a session that I'm going to be receiving healing, right? I feel bitchy. I
It's
feel
a, like a resistance.
irritated. Yeah, it's and I've learned to recognize that. Like I used to just think, "Oh, this is a really tough day or a bad day or whatever." But I've actually started to recognize no, like what it is that there's just this feeling like and the inside I'm going, "Ah." Like I'm ready
Like
to
a
just
little chihuahua.
I'm like a troll, like a chihuahua troll. Like if a chihuahua and a troll had a baby and it was like meaner than a gremlin, but like also looked cuter in some bizarre way. That's like growly daily, right? So on the inside, I'm like, ah, and like now I know if I ever sign up for a class or even sometimes like I'm considering a class and a part of me is going, this would be so good. And and there's this feeling of expansion. And then there's this part of me that's like, they don't know anything. They've only been doing this for 5 years. Like I'll just my brain is attacking it, my ego. There's this sense of like ugly, like troll being inside that's like, no, but it's not a no, it's not a sacred no. It's just a growly, bitchy mood on the inside, right? So I've recognized that that's actually a super powerful thing. And anytime I feel growly daily, that means I'm on the right track because growth is not always comfortable. Change is
Hmm.
not always comfortable. Healing is not always comfortable. If you've ever had to reset a broken arm or stitch up a wound, that's not comfortable, you know? Um, Food poisoning when it's moving out the other end is not comfortable, but your body knows what it's doing. And I think our body is wise in healing and in manifesting, and we have to remember it knows what it's doing, right? So it for me, like I think the sign that I have to soften to be able to receive a message is when I get growly. So now I've learned when I start feeling growly about something to kind of lean back in my body and put my hand on my heart and I breathe and I put my feet on the floor and I like I turn on this little tiny voice inside. It's like a really kind voice to talk to my inner child and I'm like, "Okay, Daily. I hear you. You're having a growly time today. Um, can we just look at this? Is there something about this that scares you? What is it that what do you need? What do you need? And I swear to God, like that's how my voice sounds inside. Like I get really soft and like really dramatic because I'm trying to like soften and slow my vibration down to like really hear what is it that my being is resisting against?
Yeah.
What is it that my being is actually afraid will happen if I receive the message or take whatever the thing is, right? And then that's where the magic is. That's where the power is. That's where the gold is. That's the pot at the end of the rainbow if you listen and you get the answer, right? I had like a meeting with a therapist and I was like, I don't like what this therapist said. Not only do I not like what she said, because I don't believe it's true, but she was really shitty in how she said it. She's so condescending. And she kind of is. Like she has her own issues as a therapist. Like there's ways that she could be a better therapist, right? And late to the sessions, personal stuff mixed in. These are real issues, right? So my growly self was just like, bleh! Now that doesn't mean that there wasn't truth to the growly, and it doesn't mean that there aren't new boundaries that need to be set. But when I got really quiet and did this thing that I just told you about, what I also found was that there was some wisdom in what she'd said, some real truth that was asking me to grow on a human level, to shift and open my heart in new ways, and my heart of love even towards myself. And that was just such an uncomfortable realization that, oh God, the buck stops with me, because that's how it always is, right? We go all around.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
Oh, you called me out.
yeah, yeah. So I was like, oh, that's why I'm being growly, because I don't really want to accept that responsibility. Even though my ego thinks I do, the little inner child doesn't. So I found that and I thought, okay, now there's the gold. I can work with this, right? But I think it takes courage for all of us to recognize those moments in our lives, whether that's with a healer, an energy healer, a therapist, or just with ourselves in our day-to-day life with friends, with our dreams. Sorry, that was
Yeah.
a huge tangent.
No, it was great. I think it's important for people to hear. And like, I think, when I think there's an element too where people sometimes don't want to trust that intuitive message, but also see, okay, sometimes it is not an intuitive message, it's resistance, and I'm holding myself back and I'm saying no because I don't actually want to change or show up or do the thing that I need to do. So I'm like, oh, I'm getting a no. So
Yeah.
I think some people, and I do that, I've done it,
Oh yeah. We've all
but
done that,
it's like, oh, I shouldn't do
still human.
that. Oh, I shouldn't do that. Um, so I think it's like, yeah, just building up that. My guides always call it the trust muscle. Like, what does it feel like when you feel the enthusiasm? No, like that is something I should do. And then what does it feel like? You can describe that feeling, like growly, like that is a description. Like,
Right.
so just being able to identify those changes internally, I think that's like the first step so people can see, okay, I'm resisting or I am holding myself back or whatever. Like being able to, you might not be able to take the action,
Right.
but at least you know like that you're standing in the way a little bit.
Yeah, I think like we have to unpack the things. We've got to unpack the things.
You're like,
And
why do I feel like this? Like
yeah,
asking the inner child, like you said, like
it's
why?
right. Like I think first level, like first grade of understanding the energy is just when you are starting to pay attention. I'm getting a no. I'm getting a yes. But like actually second grade is like we got to unpack the things. We've got to actually like we over time we learn what is underneath the yeses and the nos, because actually that's probably the more important, those are the more important pieces, right? I mean, if it was up to me, I would just like I have like my little rose water and I would just be like, woo, I rose water spritzed my field and now I'm clear as roses. Like, I don't have any issues.
I'm
I'm all
perfect.
balanced. It says on the bottle that's what it does, that it cleared my field from all the crazy psychic draws.
I
I'm
almost
good.
do.
Yeah, right. So, like, in my ideal world, like, that's how that would happen, but it doesn't happen that way. Like, yeah, the Vormag water clears some things. Like, all of our saging brings in incredible wisdom with the plants, but they're not meant to be like superheroes that do all our work for us. They're there to
Yeah,
illuminate the work
that's
and
why we're
show us.
humans right now.
Yeah, they're there to show us like what is available for us to engage in so that we evolve, so that we
Yeah,
love. So the saging,
amazing.
that's just the first step, right? And it's beautiful. It's yummy. Yeah.
But I think it's the same as anything. Like when you clean your room, like you put everything in little piles, you do all the things, but then there's usually more of a mess. So you have to clear, actually like do the floors and all that stuff. So I
Yeah.
feel like Reiki or any kind of clearing modality, I think you're probably going to feel, oh, I feel better after a healing session, but then there still is actions that you as the client or the person receiving, or even if you're giving yourself healing,
Yeah.
you have to actually do things.
I love that. Yes, I love that. That just
Which
puts
is hard to accept sometimes.
it is because you're like, I had a clearing, it should all be gone. But actually, it's like you just cleared your floor, but now you have to sort things and put
Yeah,
some things you threw away, and maybe some things you just threw in a closet, and some things are now on your bed. But you got to like, you still have to sort the things. And I think that it's very real. Like in session work I have with coaching clients, even like, so my coaching sessions include energy work, but not necessarily hands on, right? A lot of them are on Zoom. So we're having deep conversation and then weaving energy work through it of all of the modalities I've studied and work with. And that's all spirit led, right? So I think often what happens is like, depending on the nature of the session, sometimes the energy work and just the coaching work, people feel light and free afterwards. And they're just like, wow, everything is different. And then they're just able to move forward. And then other times, like things are brought up and they're like, whoa, what a relief. That feels gone. But then later, now new thoughts are coming in, now new challenges. And it's like, oh, that was just the top cover of some deeper work, right? And so I encourage them to go and rest and not do anything after a session for the evening so that their mind has space to unconsciously just filter and sort as much as possible so that they don't have to like get caught up in an ego drama around the work, because I think we're all conscious beings and sometimes there's work that the energy can shift that we don't necessarily have to process everything on a conscious level. If we just give ourselves time to be embodied and to come back in and to relax and to breathe and to dream, there are a lot of automatic functions that will kind of sort for us. And then when we're rested, we have the energy to now look at the conscious things and the conscious shifts that have to happen. Right.
yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, we have a couple more minutes. I want to ask you a couple questions before we close out.
Okay.
But if anyone wants to connect with Dailey, I will put your information in the show notes so people can find your website. If anyone's in Sonoma County, which I know some people listening are, you do a Reiki share in Petaluma once a month. So
Yeah.
if people want to practice Reiki, but you also teach Reiki classes. You
Yeah.
have a ton of other stuff. So we'll put all of the ways to connect with you.
Okay.
And then I'll also put a link for the previous interview we did with Dailey on the previous podcast.
Oh
So
yeah.
if you want to learn a little more about, we talked about kind of like when you first started, we did talk about when you first started practicing Reiki and some stuff about Isis and your personal story. So if people want to hear more,
Yeah.
you can listen to that. But I'm just curious, like because you're very gifted, I don't know how you would explain it, but psychic channel, whatever word you want to give to that. But you perceive things when you're doing the healing or work in other ways. And I just would love to have you kind of explain how that feels for you. Like
Mm,
if you were to like be writing it down, like
yeah.
description for someone, like when I'm doing this session, like, and I'm getting these messages, how do you receive them?
Yeah. So I guess that's evolved and changed over time and over my path, like how I do it. But we all have our clair senses, which is just like the way that we receive psychic information from the subtle energy realms. And for a long time for me, that was just a feeling sense. I would just feel a feeling of knowing and then a knowingness. Like I would just suddenly know things for a fact in my being. And then it took longer for my clairvoyance, like my ability to see things and energy and beings and colors and that kind of thing. It took longer for that to develop. I started working with clair senses and like strengthening those skills when I was still in my teens. And I would say that it took until my mid 30s for me to just have really clear sight. I think some of that actually had more to do with my ego getting in the way and like just my fear and of like, am I right or am I making this up? Because I had lots of crystal clear moments all throughout those years, but like to the place where I could just trust it, right? So today, um, like even when I'm in coaching sessions, I usually say an opening prayer. And it is different for me in person versus on Zoom. I actually feel like I'm more clear when I'm on the phone or on Zoom with people. I just get the pictures more in a more structured, clear way that are easy to process. When I'm in person, there's almost so much stimuli from their body
I
messages,
was just wondering
sides
about
that
that. I
they
was like, it's
feel.
because they're close.
Yeah. I actually get like so much when I'm physically with people that I tend to create I create like veils for myself so that I'm not overwhelmed. And I'm still learning to manage those. So often I just get like a fuckload of information, pardon my French. It's just a lot of information. Um, so so I have a process that I do with people in person, and that helps to kind of sort that out. So on the Zoom, like when I say an opening prayer with my eyes closed and I welcome things in, I get very strong visuals. Like I can see the person, I see like a bridge in my mind. And it looks kind of like a Japanese anime bridge, like cherry blossoms
Mm,
and water. And I don't know why. This
I
is
like that.
and maybe it's the Reiki bridge, I don't know. But like I could see a bridge and then I see the person and then I just see their entire being of light, their light body. And and then I can see like the guides that are with them and who is walking with them and around them. And if I focus in, I can get more information about that. But usually I start with just looking at what's happening in the person's body. And even though it's just light, as I look and I surrender and I ask, I will hear messages about it, and the messages resonate as truth in my core. And then sometimes I hear other messages, and those are often the projections from people's ego or in their mind, or even from other people's energy in their field. And so I also can hear those. And instead of those resonating in my body here, I feel them more as like a cloying, needy feeling, like when I really crave ice cream. It's more of that kind of feeling like, "Oh, I really want this." It's a need in my body. And that's a different feeling than just the clear message, which has there's no emotional attachment to it at all. It's just like, here's a fact kind of a thing, even if it's an
Yeah.
emotional topic. So for me, it's that combo. And then sometimes I'm shown flashes of actual scenarios, but more often I'm given information. So I will just hear very clearly, like, this started for you when you were 8 years old. And then I will get like other messages underneath that, like, oh, it has to do with something that happened in a blah, 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 you know? And I only get that if there's a reason that we're supposed to work with it.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
is it more like, how do I explain this? For me, when I hear it, it's like inside of my
Yeah.
mind
Yeah.
versus a
External.
mediumship. If a spirit would speak to me, it would be like I hear them in my ear, like outside of. Do you feel
So
like there is both or?
different positions. And I think again, this is something that developed over time. So it took me a while to understand the orientations. So like um guides, like if I'm getting this knowingness, like their body's telling me their life, higher self, their beings are asking to relay information in, it just kind of is there. It just shows up in the middle of my being, like sort of in my energy being, like my energy brain, third eye, Anjana chakra maybe.
So
Um,
like this way.
yeah, it's just like it's like inside and but fully present. There's no
I can I can see what you're telling me, but if you guys don't understand, you can watch the video on YouTube.
yeah, my hands are doing a lot of energy.
Yeah.
And then, but if there are specific guides, like sometimes when angels come, I love working with the angels, by the way. I love the angels. And I remember the first time I ever worked with them, they were just like, we're not Egyptian gods. There's a major difference between us. And I was like, what? You're not syncretized? They're like, no. But it was wonderful. It's like they're wonderful. So when the angels come, that actually feels like an external presence.
Yeah.
And when I hear them, even though it's still in my inner ear, it feels like I'm hearing it from like a foot out in my field, if that makes sense. Like that's where the telephone is that's speaking in. But that's still very different from actual auditory hearing. Like when I
Yeah.
ghosts, I usually actually hear something external in
Physically.
space. Like I'm laying there relaxing and I hear somebody whisper in my ear, wake up. And I'm like, oh my God, ah, but that's like that's an actual external sound versus this psychic ear, right? So that to me is that, but when I see people in person, it's very different because I'm a kinesthetic, so very spatially oriented. So when someone comes in, I'll do like a sage smudge around them. And then I have other resins that I will clear with, and resins that are known for helping to help clear corded energy and realign things. So as I do my 365 around, or 360 around that person, 365, um, I'm actually able to just, it's like I'm reading records. So as I walk through their actual auric field, I can see how big it is, how small it is. There are colors that show up to me, and I just literally see scenarios in their life, like sometimes childhood scenarios that they're still clinging to, or people that are asking for attention that the smoke kind of puts them outside of the boundary in a healthy way. And so I just walk through and it's like a lot of information there. And then, their guides are in a circle around us, and our guides will share with me, like, what is the work that really needs to happen um, for this person in the session. Sometimes it matches what they think they're there for, and sometimes it's totally different. Right. So that's where, as a practitioner, I'm like, weaving bridges, but like that's a very kinesthetic experience. And so on a Zoom, even though the same information comes in, it comes in a totally different way.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Yeah. And I feel like I'm not sure that if you ever did a reading for someone or Reiki, either one, but like of just completely distance, like not working on them, not seeing them, do you feel like that's easier? Just tapping into the
um
energy?
well, I think like I think in person is easier in terms of like running the Reiki, because like they're there, and because it's
Yeah.
pretty physical, visceral person, it's really easy for me just to stay 100% focused in the moment. Like it took me probably a couple of years within my practice to really learn how to train my mind to be 100% for the channel during a session and not be thinking about my grocery list for after or these other things. Um, and to just like really access this incredible like compassion heart that is just like there's no self in the moment. And I mean, sometimes I still am not there, but like it took a few years to kind of get the nuts and bolts of that. And I think when it's online, it's just such a different modality. I actually feel that the Wi-Fi waves or the cellular waves help to shape the flow of energy just as effectively as if I were in space laying hands on. So what happens for me a lot of the time is when I have online clients only, like I've only ever seen them online, in the times when we have finally met each other in person, I feel like I know them completely the same as if I'd seen them all the time. Like there is no differentiation because I'm able to tap into their field with their permission. So like I feel their energy vibration when I'm
Yeah.
by distance. I may be at a screen going like this, right? But like once we drop in deep enough, like I can smell them. I mean, I
Yeah,
don't
you're
always smell them,
connected.
but like there's a real like I'm there. And every once in a while I'll have students or clients that are like, I literally smelled roses while you were doing that. And I'm like, oh, that's my perfume. Or like, I felt you behind me or whatever. And that's always fun, but um, it's pretty real because this is just energy. The energy is already astral. It's already happening on a etheric level. So we don't have to be in the same space. It's just a different experience, right? And for some forms of healing, I've actually felt that it was better for people to be in their own space where they could lay down and feel uninterrupted and not have to drive home after.
Yeah.
Just depends on the nature of the work. So the more that I've seen that, the more I've actually really loved working online with certain clients. And then there are other people that I will only see in person. Or not only, but like it's just way better in person.
Yeah, I feel like for me personally, doing the distance sessions is very helpful when it's more of a physical issue or some kind of
Yeah.
health stuff that they're wanting just help with. Because I feel like sometimes in person, it's like the body can get distracting, or then I'm like going into like their cells. I'm like, why am I doing this? I don't need to do this. So I
There's just
feel like it's
accessing
easier to
information.
stay
Yeah.
um neutral.
Right. I think that's a really good way of saying it for sure. Like when I'm in person with people, I think there's just such a huge empathy that opens up and sympathy. And actually, as an energy healer, I feel that the work that I'm doing and holding space is actually just way more powerful when I can be in a space of love, but also really aligned with just like God source, with light source, and honoring the shadows, but like not really personally impacted by that. And I think when I'm in person with people, there's a higher chance after a couple of sessions, like if I have multiple sessions in a day, there's a higher chance that just my own empathic boundaries start to like I feel the story. Like someone can come in and they may not tell me what's going on, but I feel it. I see it.
Yeah.
And energetically, it's like if there's enough of a resonance, I'm just like, ah. And the moment that I'm feeling like that, um, I've lost the higher vibration of the work, right? So I've learned that and I've learned to step back from that and re-find it. But that's just, it takes more time for me, right? So I think they're both really good. It just depends on the nature of the work. And sometimes they think
The
they need
touch.
neutral healing space, but yeah, or that too. But I think sometimes people think they need a neutral healing space, and what they need is like friendship,
I was gonna say they
like
need someone to talk to.
someone who really loves them. Like, and I can't like just manufacture love, like, okay,
Yeah.
but like I think there's this powerful relationship in healing work, that if we honor what our guides are putting forth and what our inner knowing knows, we can sit with someone and just truly have this heart to heart connection happen. And we both receive healing just by being so real with what the work is that's offered, you know? And so sometimes that is super neutral energy, but sometimes it's not. Sometimes
Yeah.
someone needs someone to be like, girl, yes, I'm glad you left him. Like sometimes we need that. And I don't say that like that's not an ego-based thing. I think it's like when we open as channels to the work, sometimes it just comes through, right? We're
Yeah.
able to like really see the big picture, and we can work with these different tools and really open our heart and be present with people in such a real way. And it can be a nourishing thing.
Yeah. Well, I'm so grateful for you. Thank you for being here.
You.
I don't know. If you have a oracle card deck or something handy, if you want to pull a card, or I can.
I have a couple. Okay, you have to choose. I've got,
Okay.
I
Well,
have,
give me, how many are there?
so either the Isis Oracle from Alana Fairchild, kind of about like the more I've worked with it, the more I'm like, it's kind of intense. But so Egyptian work is, right? And then Doreen Virtue's Old Archangel Oracle, which I still love this deck, no matter who Doreen has become, who she was in this moment was fabulous. And the angels really speak through that well. And then I also have the last one I have today is the Goddess Oracle deck, which is a whole bunch of goddesses. And so we could always pull a goddess. Yeah. And then I have, this is not a deck, but I have my little cards from the last
Mm,
Egyptian class that I took with Egyptian concepts. So those are the options.
well, I feel like we should do the angels.
Okay. I love the
I was
angels.
gonna ask what you think, but I'll just choose.
I like the angels. Yeah, I would say. Okay. You want to breathe in with me? What are we pulling
Sure.
this card for? Just for everyone listening?
Just anyone listening right now, like just a helpful message from the angels, or perhaps there's a certain angel that wants to be known to the listeners and connected with, but we're just open to receive, whether you're listening now or later.
Yeah. So setting this intention across time and space, we invite the angels, the archangels, to speak with us and share a message of love for the person that is listening now, whenever they tune in, listening
And
through.
me and Dailey.
Yes,
And us.
yes, yes, yes. Okay. What is the card? What is the message? Ah! Cards are get frisky. Oh, I get this message. They say, "We are here." And they're saying there's so many different messages for so many different listeners that um, that so the shadow, there's actually a card on the bottom of the deck, and they're saying that this is the card that really kind of encapsulates the fuller message, which is teaching and learning.
Mm,
What I get from this is just that we're all here to teach and learn from each other. So even there's people listening right now that may feel like they can't be teachers because they don't know enough, or they're not wise enough or smart enough, or they've really messed up their life. Ugh, I feel that one, but I see it like, but you didn't mess up your life, like it's all a part of the growth process. And what you can share is how you're overcoming and the love that you continue to find to keep stepping forward. Everybody has something that they can share about their experiences that's so real. And sometimes you will find people in your path that don't honor your teachings, that don't resonate with who you are as a teacher. But um, it's okay because they're not for you. And they're receiving their own lesson through the conflict that they feel in honoring your light. So
mm,
that was the lesson they needed from you. And you will continue to learn with that. Now, the main card that I pulled for all of us And this to me feels really like it'll be interesting for the unveiling. This just feels so appropriate with where we're going into this particular season in life and politically in our country. But this is the life review card by
Mm.
Archangel Jeremiah. And the card itself says, take an inventory of your life and resolve to change or heal anything that's unbalanced. And I know, like, the first time I ever received this card, I was like, who the bleep is Jeremiah? And how am I supposed to do a life review other than journaling? Right? And journaling, I was like, I've been journaling up to my ears and I don't have any more clarity. But I think over the years, what I've found with this card is that it's really this deep entreaty for us, um, to recognize that there may be ways right now that, like, okay, we're trying to move forward in life, we're trying to do things, you have goals in your life that are so important to you, even if that goal is just to be happy and you're like, I'm having trouble being happy, right? We have things that as a creative being we want to manifest, and when life review comes up, that means that probably the very next step is some form of acknowledgement and possibly even clearing around things that have happened to you in the past. Because in order for you to move forward, you've got to hold your power. You've got to hold your power. You need the energy of your power so you can take steps forward in life. And when we review the past, we may have epiphanies, sudden clarification. This is why this thing worked. This is why this thing didn't work. Oh, the last time I fell in love and started dating, it looked like this. That worked. That didn't work. Oh, I still have this wound from over here in parenthood. Like all of these types of past reflections, if we can own the experience and acknowledge, like, where we may still be angry about things or hurt about things, and not try to change it, not try to push it out, just own it. Yeah, I'm really angry that so and so XYZ, you know, I'm still really hurt because I was trying to blah blah blah, and this is how blah blah blah. When we can just be with the energy of our truth around those past experiences, that is when our power comes back in. That's when our power starts to come back in. And that's because our soul literally starts to come back into our body when it feels safe enough to reflect. So the life review card invites all of us right now to take inventory of our life. And if there are things you notice in that inventory that feel misaligned, maybe you're like, yeah, I really should just be going to the gym every day, drinking more water, I'm not getting my 8 glasses in, and I'm eating like crap McDonald's every day. Like if that's their inner voice, change that and figure out how can it be fun to go to the gym. Maybe it's like, forget the gym, you need to go walk around the lake. Like, but bring those messages in and make those changes. And that is what Jeremiah asks you to do. And you can call on Jeremiah by toning his name 3 times, and the energy will be there to assist you and bring you greater wisdom.
Thank you so much.
I know that was long.
No, it's amazing. And I think it's really interesting because I did like a post on Instagram of a kind of like about that today, basically. So that message is coming in of just the idea that just because something happened a certain way or whatever it was, a traumatic big T, little t, but like we don't have to view everything in that lens forever. Like you can change, you can shift, and it's all the perspective of like when I first started getting into healing, like joy, peace, like those things are very uncomfortable. So it takes a lot to shift our mind. But I think having some connection, and if that's Jeremy L or any other angels, like you can ask them, like you're saying, tone their name or ask them to help, especially when it comes to like motivation and things like that's something that I'll literally ask, like, please give me the motivation and like the
Yeah.
excitement to actually want to do this thing. Because
And they're
there's no,
fast.
Yeah, there's no use in doing it if we don't actually enjoy it, then it's gonna be worse for us. So
Yeah, I love
I
that. And
think those messages really resonate with me, so I'm sure it'll resonate with our listeners.
oh yeah. When I was actually shuffling, like just back to how I see things, like I could see people, like I could see the future listeners. I can see them as like little flames in the dark and
I love
feel
that.
energy. So like I feel you guys, and it's a very cool thing.
I
So
love that so
yeah,
much.
those messages, they're for you. If you're doubting out there, they're for you, you know, at least for a few people I saw for sure. Different pieces. So take what serves. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Well, anything else you want to share before we close out?
Um,
Thank you for, I know we went over, of course, because I tend to talk for a long time.
this might be like a 4-part series. But
Well, you can definitely come back.
thank you. Yeah, oh no, I just meant we might have to break this up into
Oh
4
yeah, yeah, no,
so long.
we won't. We won't.
But
They can break it up if they want to pause and
I
listen
love
later.
that. Yeah. No, I just want to thank you. I feel like again we're just in such transformative times, and I was noticing myself being growly about things just in general in the world state like a week ago. And then I thought, oh, we're consciously up leveling as a community. And right now we have this critical option. We have a critical choice to make. We can either believe in the old paradigm and believe that things are going to stay the way they've been and believe that we're not going to have the opportunity to make grand shifts and changes in the narrative of our country, of our world, of how our culture is, or we can choose to believe that believe in a new paradigm, whatever that paradigm is for you, right? And we can put our energy and our intention into seeing a loving future and a loving, peaceful future with with people working out their conflict in healthy ways and putting all of their violence into healthy sports, you know, instead of killing each other. And I think like it's so important to recognize the power of energy and that just that decision that you make. Do you want to believe in the old paradigm and believe that things will be more of the same? Or do you want to believe in a bright future with love and possibility? Just that decision alone can shift the entire trajectory of your community, your relationships, and your life. So I would say, like, right now, with, I mean, as we're filming, I think like Mercury is going to retrograde soon for a month. And that's just such a powerful time for reset across the board. And then
Review.
planetarily, I'm not even going to go to astrology, but like, yeah, there's just so much positive potential moving forward over the next cycle of the year. And I invite every single one of us to step into a beautiful vision for what's possible for ourselves and know that our desires are sacred and that they will be a part of what heals our communities and our world.
Yes, I think like it's taking that idea of like what if, and not that being a scary thing. It's like what if, like what is possible. There's so much that is possible. So I trust that people listening to this already are building that new earth concept, as people say, the age of Aquarius, like building that in their mind. But it's like we can take the physical, actionable steps. So I'm looking forward to seeing what's gonna happen.
Yeah. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, thank you. And we'll see you guys in the next episode. Bye.